Welcome to the System Simplified podcast, where we feature top leaders who share stories on how to successfully systemize a business. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, Klevit here, the host of the System Simplified podcast, where I feature top founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders about systematizing a business. And this episode is being brought to you by Business Success Consulting Group, where we create, document, and implement processes and procedures so businesses can grow and thrive. And today's guest is Lisa Catto. Hi, Lisa.
Hey there, how you doing?
Great. Well, I'm so happy to have you as a guest on this podcast because you are definitely a top entrepreneur. I mean, your bio is so impressive in terms of being an entrepreneur. And we're going to go over it. We're going to talk about efficiency. We're going to talk about automation. We're going to talk about all those exciting things that can really help our listeners gain more time, because that's what we all want. We all want to have efficiency so we can gain more time, more freedom. And we're going to talk about that. But before we do that, I definitely want to give a shout out to Topher Morrison, who introduced us. And I recorded a great episode with Topher where he gave so much good, amazing data about basically how to create your personal pitch. And I'm going to include the show notes, that episode in the show notes so people can actually listen to it. I also wrote a blog based on this podcast. It was so good that he actually gave us a process on how to create your own personal pitch. And I highly recommend our listeners to listen to Topher and also read a blog. And then by chatting, we just realized that we also know Dan Bradbury, I just interviewed him as well. And I'm going to include that episode in the show notes. And he's all about entrepreneurship. It's a great, great episode about what does it really take to be a successful entrepreneur. And you just won an award, the Entrepreneur of the Year for 2023, right? You can show your award right there. And that was from...
I said to you last time I picked this award up and showed it to someone, I ended up dropping it and it's glass and it's now got a heavy chip in it, but let's just hide that with my fingers. So yeah, that was actually Dan and Topher together. They ran a competition, which was a pitch competition audience vote for the best strategy that could help the audience in being a successful entrepreneur, and audience vote, and I won it. So I'm very pleased with that.
That's amazing. I would love to hear about that strategy. But before that, I really want to, introduce you appropriately. So you are acknowledged as a thought leader in the field of business growth using automation. You have, you basically did digital marketing before digital marketing was a thing. And you worked with big names like Kellogg's, Adidas, Nestle, helping them with digital marketing. And you're all about increasing efficiency and automation. And I would love for you to share with the listeners your story, a little bit of your story about how did you become an entrepreneur, and a little bit of your journey in a few sentences so they will understand more who you are and why you are here to talk to us about automation and efficiency.
I'll try and be efficient with condensing over 30 years worth of business leadership into a few sentences. I had my first business when I was 19, which was in the late 80s, early 90s, where I owned a big venue in North London that was London's only roller rink that I converted into a nightclub on Friday and Saturday nights in the height of what we call the rave game over here in the UK. And that led on to, I owned an animation art gallery. And then I started in the world of digital in the mid-90s, where we were the first people ever to place an advertiser in a computer game. So when you see product placements such as the Adidas ball in FIFA soccer, or the branding in Sony Gran Turismo, that was the kind of product placement that we did. And we were the first people ever to do it, which led on to making computer games, promotional software for the big brands, on-pack impact for people like Kellogg's and Nestle, for example, and Quaker and Ferrero Rocher, where I don't know if you remember when there used to be CDs on cereal packets. So that was us. We were running millions of CDs to do that. And then that led on to making PlayStation and Xbox games. So where with the digital marketing was, all the branding and stuff that we were doing in game when people were still using dial-up modems and floppy disks.
For our younger listeners, we'll have to explain to them, what does that mean? What is a floppy disk? Okay, well, that's okay. Look it up. Yes. Wow. That's incredible. So you've definitely been in that arena for that many years. Why are you so obsessed with efficiency?
I think it's got to do with my self-diagnosed ADHD. It's my business is pretty much focused around my coping mechanism of getting stuff done, getting dopamine hits, and feeling like a job's well done, with a beginning, a middle, and an end, so I can move on. So I was very lucky. My father always said that I'd have an answer for everything, and now I just get paid for it, which is great.
That's fantastic. So when you did the pitch that you won the first place in terms of strategies for entrepreneurs, what were part of the strategies you were talking about?
The specific strategy that I spoke about at the competition was about relationship building, was around finding the people around you that's like a personal balance sheet that are going to take you further faster. So I can track back so much of my business success and my personal success to nurturing the relationships with the right people, pretty much in a premeditated way, but not without love. It's if people are going to be great referrals or great strategic alliances or any kind of joint venture type scenario, whether people are working with you or they're providing leads for you, and it's always a two-way partnership. That was the foundation of what my pitch was about.
Oh, wow. I'm really curious. So can you tell us a little bit more about that process that you implemented in terms of creating those premeditated relationships or relationships that are actually intentional?
Well, it was called relationships on purpose. So if I look at what I'm good at, and I know a lot of things about a lot of things, but I'm not an expert at everything. So when I need to serve a client, for example, with added value, so we've just rebuilt somebody's business and I'm an automation agency, that's what we do. But I surround myself with people of like mind and like values. It's really important to know what it is that we're all about as far as culturally and what the expectation is for the deliverance of excellence and what that actually means and what it doesn't mean. So culture is a very important part of this to make sure people are aligned. So when I was asked to rebuild this multi 7-8 figure business, I had to go and find people that were experts in branding online, or whether it be traffic or general branding. We rebranded, we did new websites, we did new copy, we did everything. So I pulled in a team of people that would I have their skills, would have delivered the same level of excellence. So those kinds of strategic partnerships, as an example, give me the ability to be able to deliver exceptional added value to my clients whilst I don't have to go and learn and be an expert at all those things. But meanwhile, I have had to do a lot of work around making sure that culturally I know what that looks like, who I want to partner with, not just because someone's got the skills, because someone can be really highly skilled and you can get on really well with them, but if they're culturally not a good fit, in our case not a team player, or they get really stuck in like a pit bull and they're not going to let go and they stick with a bad plan, or they're difficult to communicate with, then that doesn't work for us. So we're very clear on our culture and our values. So that's one example. Becoming a Keap Certified partner. So Keap, which is an automation software, I became a partner. It was formerly known as Infusionsoft. I became a partner of theirs back about 10 years ago, and the Keap community would be another example of great collaboration of people that you can learn from, the community that you spend your time with, so you can learn and grow as a business professional, or as with the skills that you need, or people that understand who you are and what you're all about. And it's a safe space where you don't have to worry about being vulnerable. So surrounding yourself with the right type of people in order to take you further. It has many different strains, as well as obviously the affiliates who are going to pass you leads, even if that's for a referral fee, of making sure that they're good quality people that are going to not missell you. Did that make sense?
Absolutely. So the first point, where you actually have referral partners or people that you bring into the project, and I agree with you, they have to align culturally. What actions do you actually take in order to make sure that they align culturally?
We have what we call a gauntlet, which is some topics of conversations and some questionnaires and some ways of being and role playing where we pressure test against our core values to see if somebody is a good fit or not.
Interesting. I mean, I like that idea, and I do use it as well, like in terms of like, I also recommend to my clients whenever we, let's say, document a process of hiring process, I always say, you know, you want to give them scenarios, right? Want to give scenarios and see how people act to those in those scenarios, and then really evaluate if that aligns with your core values or not, because that's really it's such an important aspect of it that you can't just ignore. That's for sure. Yeah, I mean, I totally make sense. I mean, those are the things that those are the groups that you want to surround yourself with, because then you're going to get a high value relationship for it, because we all aligned and you're thinking the same, you're all moving in the same direction. Absolutely. So now let's talk about automation and efficiency. So share with me and the listeners some of your favorite automation or some of your favorite efficiency hacks, like different things that you do in order to actually be more efficient with your clients in your business, or that you teach your clients.
Well, the first thing the first hack, if you like, is to understand where you're not being efficient, so that you can know which levers to pull, which dials to turn. So the first thing that we always do is we build a map. So we design and build automated customer journeys. So we break it down into 3 distinct phases, which is the marketing, the lead generation phase, into the sales process, and then into the fulfillment. And the very first thing we do is build this map. It's like a flow chart through these sections, and see what people are already doing and find out where people are falling through in their customer experience, where sales are falling through, where people are wasting time, where data is being manually input, where it can be joined up. We often find that there's a conquer the chaos situation going on, where people have got many different pieces of software bundled together with some gaffer tape and some elastoplast and a bit of sellotape, and it's all kind of got a bit messy. So there's often an audit that goes on to have a look at what's working and what's not working. And then we take a little bird's eye view and we go, where are you going to get the best ROI on this process, whether it be saving you time or increasing your sales? A great exercise for that is one which is in the Gino Wickman Traction book, which I'm sure you've heard of, which focuses on the EOS, the Entrepreneur's Operating System. He has an exercise called Delegate to Elevate, which is basically you write out all of the tasks that you are doing on a day-to-day and week-to-week, and you put above the line everything that you're great at, that you like, and everything below the line that you're not good at, whether you don't like, whether you're good at it or not good at it. And those are the first things to look at bringing above the line. I'm a great believer in what I call incremental is exponential, because if you can scoop up 5 minutes 20 times a day, then you've got 100 minutes, which is nearly 2 hours. It's like a snowball effect of, lots of 5 minutes bundled together that really can have the impact of results that we get of, saving a day a week for some members of staff, which is off the scale, not just in what you're saving money wise, but what they can then put their time to that is much more high impact or high value.
Absolutely. I agree. What other efficiency hacks have you seen, or that you help your clients using automation?
Yes. So we help join everything up. Having the numbers available is very important, is knowing which numbers are happening. I'm sure we spoke to Dan about this, which numbers are happening at which part of the pipeline, and what do those numbers mean? So how many leads came in from each lead source, of knowing what's working and what's not working. So you have the intelligence to be able to make the data, the decisions in your business that are intelligent, the data to make the intelligent decisions in your business. So that's what we help them with, is making sure that they're not wasting time having to put the data in more than once, that the people that need the data, whether it's the accounts or whether it's invoices being created, whether it's customers being reminded to pay money, because that helps with cash flow, knowing who those people are, being able to automate the ins and the outs of every part of the business. We break businesses down into different sections than most people do. We break them down into like e-commerce, info businesses, consultants, bricks and mortar, service-based, because it's a very different kind of customer journey. And e-commerce versus a service-based business is very different. You know, in e-commerce, someone's going to put something in a checkout and away they go. They might get an abandoned cart sequence. I mean, the amount of people that don't follow up with people that start the checkout but don't finish it. It might be that a high ticket consultant needs to have a much longer sales cycle to nurture someone, have a discovery call, qualify them, see if they are a good fit or not. So it's very important to understand what kind of customer journey you have. So
Sure.
it's for us, a lot of success comes in the planning and what we do, which is the playbooking of, we build out the individual plays that you need in order to have success, and then training the team into it, making sure that your team have buy-in and a part of the process. You're not just telling them what's going to happen, but they actually are part of the process of the design of it, because then they are much more likely to adopt it.
You know, I can't agree more. I mean, that's what we do. You know, as you know, in our company here, we create the playbooks, the actual processes and procedures. And one of the things that I'm very, very adamant about and very passionate about is the followed by all. I mean, you have to make sure that the processes are followed by all. And one of the things, in order to actually be able to those processes to be followed by all, you have to get buy-in from your team, because otherwise they're not going to do that. They have to be willing to participate and willing and know what is in those playbooks and actually use it. So what are some of your most successful ways of making sure to get buy-in from the team?
Getting them on the calls, inviting them into the process, making sure I nearly always make the leader speak last. So I always speak to the team before I speak to the business owner, to get so that they're not led by him in that sense, of making sure that they know it's safe and that anything goes. The only dumb question is the one that you don't ask. We also put in a lot of accountability dashboards, a lot of visibility, so that if there is, for example, a sales process and you want to see how many leads came in for what sales agent, have they followed up with them, where are they at in the sales process, the visibility helps people be accountable. And part of it, because it's like a scoreboard that everybody can see of how many leads are closing or how many leads are late on the follow-up. All those kinds of accountability dashboards are really useful, especially as our world is getting busier and busier, to have the data snapshot-wise available to us instantly and dynamically.
Absolutely. And then, okay, so you have the accountability scoreboards. Let's say you see somebody who is not pulling their weight. What do you do?
Well, then it's raised. That's when we start to talk to our clients about their leadership of those people. And, you know, if we're recommending that they put in one-to-ones, we've often supported companies with HR consultants to say, you know, you need to have someone come in and do one-to-ones with everybody and find out why they're not aligned. Is it that they're just having a bad day? Have they got something going on at home? Do you have your culture sorted and your core values to know if you expect someone to fit in, do they know what they're fitting in with? And have you pressure tested them? So often, a lot of what we do can reveal and uncover some deeper issues that are going on in the company. And then we're able to help them with how they can overcome those. So whether it is that they need to have more one-to-ones or they haven't given clarity as a business, and then we can do team building exercises as far as bringing everyone together in a workshop so that culturally they all start to get more aligned, or the sore thumbs that aren't a good fit can exit gracefully.
Absolutely. Lisa, what excites you the most about working with your clients?
Seeing the results. When a client comes back to me, we have a feedback loop with our clients where after a certain amount of time, we will interview them on their experience with us, of what problems they had before, what solutions they have afterwards. Of course, we're tracking their results. But when they get really excited about having saved a day a week or 3 hours a day per sales agent in some cases, or having doubled their revenue as a result of just plugging a gap with one with one gym owner, we made a small tweak in the automation of his outbound mails, which it got him multi-five figures like within 2 weeks. Those kinds of successes of knowing what we're doing works and that other people are getting success from it is really what gives me my dopamine hit.
Absolutely. I have to ask you a question. Why do you think processes and procedures are so important for businesses?
Why? Well, what would happen if we didn't have processes and procedures? that would be, it's like, well, it's fine if you want to live in chaos and overwhelm and not know what's happening next and not have any idea of how to move your business forward, because without the processes, everyone's just up to their own thing. There's no consistency, and you might be making money, but you can make a hell of a lot more if you had a good structural foundation in place, not building on quicksand, but building on real solid foundation to be able to grow your business. Businesses often come to us. We don't normally work with startups. We work with businesses that have normally been going 2 or 3 years, who have done that. They haven't had any systems or processes. It's the S curve of business, and they've had this great growth because they're really good at what they've done, but then they've hit this ceiling and they can't go any further because everything is straining at the seams, and they don't know how to get growth, is because everything just needs to be aligned, smoothed out, joined up nicely so that it gives the scope to be able to scale. So we normally take people from growth to scale. And that's what happens, is that if you don't have the systems and processes in place, you're going to hit a ceiling, and you are either going to have a massive slowdown in your growth or stop growing altogether. You'll hit a plateau.
Absolutely. So well said. Well, Lisa, thank you so much for being a guest on this podcast. I mean, the information that you just shared with us, with me, with the listeners, is so valuable. It's basically walked us through a process of basically how to create that client journey, right? Which you help businesses do. And also a real explanation of how do you increase efficiency, right? It's very simple. Those are very simple things that people can start doing right away. I mean, like the delegation, for instance, decide what you can delegate, what you can pass on, what you don't have to, keep for yourself. So those are very, very important things that people can totally do and start doing now in order to regain more freedom and more time. So before we end off, is there any final piece of advice that you would like to give our listeners?
I'd say that have a look. Anything that you're doing on repeat, whether it take you 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 20 minutes, is something that you should really look at automating.
Absolutely. That's very good. Now, if they want to reach out to you so you can help them automate, how should they do that?
My website is thebusinesscatalyst.co.uk. And you can find me, Lisa Catto, that's with 2 T's, on social media, pretty much all over the place.
Fantastic. So definitely reach out to Lisa. And again, Lisa, thank you so much for being a guest on this podcast.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the System Simplified podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.